What's up, narrators? We are back with the Narratives Per Possession podcast, and I am excited for our first return guest ever in the podcast history. And what that means is we're going to talk about the Orlando Magic again, which is it's an interesting ride of a team. There's no other way I can put it. Like there's just you're getting ups and downs all around and game winners. Tonight, we have returning to the podcast. You know him from being the host of the Learning Basketball podcast. You know him from Swish Theory. And you know him for writing for Sports Illustrated, Magic Heat. Magic Heat is the handle on X, I know, but he covers the Magic. I want to bring back none other than Ryan Kaminski. Ryan, how are you doing, sir? Let me help you out there. How are you doing?
Hey, what an honor, man. What an honor. Back on the pod, first repeat guest. A great honor. Thank you, Morris. I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Good timing to talk Magic. If we scheduled this one day before, the vibes would not be as high. But, that's basketball for you. A whole new season. You're riding the wave. It's a long season. You're riding the wave,
You really do. Honestly, somehow this image just came into my head when you said vibes. I feel like the vibes of the Orlando Magic in these first 11 games, it's been like the Degeneration X intro, just the lines flip-flopping. And, it's like, everybody's ready to rock now.
It's crazy, yeah. I mean, it's been crazy. But after that shot last night, I mean, who knows where it could go. I think that's the type of moment that could galvanize this team and, just kind of ease some of the pressure and kind of get everyone a little more comfortable with, maybe this thing could work out if everyone can kind of stay on the court together.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I think back, we are now just about 6 months removed from the first time. Yeah. So the first ever episode of this very podcast, and there's Per Possession podcast. I mean, we talked about what kind of like was the retrospective culmination of the Orlando Magic's 24-25 season. And, I remember distinctly what was sort of the hallmark of that edition of the roster was a very stout defense, very strong defense. So far in these first 11 games, you've seen some bits of it, but it certainly is not like what last year's Magic was on the defensive end. And certainly, making the change of, KCP out, Desmond Bane in, seems like the offense is still trying to find his legs, and we'll certainly get into more detail of that. I think up top, I just want to get your impression. Take us through like what has stuck out to you in these last 3 games, because it was an interesting sequence of things. And honestly, like even just these last 3 games are quite topsy-turvy because it's sandwiched in between, win Friday against the Celtics, loss Sunday against the Celtics, and then this dramatic game-winning victory last night, Monday.
Yeah, it's been like we said, just the culmination of a season in a 3-game sample size. The ups and downs of a whole season, you can feel it in just these 3 games. I mean, the starting with the first game. I was at the first and the third game, not the middle game that they lost to Boston. But the first game, they hit their threes. They hit 17 threes, which is rare for Orlando, obviously, and they kept up with Boston's 3-point volume. They both shot about 37, 38 threes, and the Magic made more of theirs. That was a pretty big difference just to actually have the 3-pointers on their side. That was a season high in 3-point made and like 2 off their season high for 3-point attempts. So they were definitely moving the ball well. I asked Jamal Mosley about the ball movement, and like nothing but good things to say about the team just kind of looking for the open man and doing the things that they want to do on the first game. And then the second game comes around and they have all those turnovers. Coach Mosley makes clear what the turnovers were the issue, and they were. It was a huge deficit or a huge margin in points off turnovers in the second game. So you win one, you lose one, and they played the Boston Celtics like just a wild amount of times going back to last season now, because you've got the entire playoff series last year and now 2 early games at home against Boston. So you're seeing these guys a lot. And another matchup coming up, I believe, in Boston, just a couple weeks away. So you're really getting to know them, and that's good for experience because this is probably one of your playoff rivals for years to come, given kind of the trajectories of where they're at and the way you match up with them. So we can dig in wherever you want into that series, and then last night happens where it was they were trying to give the game away a little bit. Like they were Paulo even admitted like he was missing free throws. He kind of got by the sidelines out of bounds alley-oop play that I believe tied the game, and then he missed Jeremy Grant tied the game with like a sidelines out of bounds alley-oop, but that was kind of a crazy play. You hardly see it, but then we saw two like a game winner in Miami off of it too, like one of the craziest nights in the NBA. So I think the team has been very rocky, but like last night just feels like one of those moments that kind of just eases a lot of the tension around the team. And, now they're on kind of a nice little hot streak. If anything, they're 4-2 and top 10 in offense and defense the last 6 games. They're beating the teams they're supposed to. The starting lineup, top lineup in the NBA by net rating among any lineup with 90 minutes, and like 5th in net rating among the 24 lineups with like 50 minutes. So like any lineup with a decent sizable playing time among any of those lineups, the Magic's lineup is number 1 or top 5 in net rating. So, they have something, but as we'll get to a little bit, the bench has been kind of, worrisome and really the streaky part for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to dig into that a bit more, the bench piece of it. So I was able to watch in its entirety the Sunday night matchup of Magic and the Celtics. That was something that really did stick out to me is, where's the bench production? Also, from what I saw of the Monday night game against the Trailblazers as well, it seems like if I'm thinking about the offense, and it's a good segue into one of the major aspects of this offense so far this season, it really, to me, it seems like it just depends on where the rhythm is for the Magic's offense in terms of like just being able to get into transition and like just create that avalanche effect of what they were accustomed to last season. The defense turning into offense so frequently, and from the offensive standpoint of, again, like enter Desmond Bane, exit Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, what are your impressions right now about like how Bane is being used? And I'll just say, like, my observation outside looking in is it looks like a different type of usage for him than what most people probably were accustomed to when he was in Memphis with playing in the backcourt with Ja for good reason, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's been like kind of an interesting experiment, I would say, so far. Like there's been flashes of like, oh, that's exactly what we pictured with this offense. And then, there's full quarters of what's going on here and why is this guy running point guard and why is he playing off ball? Why is he not shooting threes? I mean, with Bane, I think they are very much feeling out the offense and trying to feel out the best way to create shots and leverage the defense for everybody. And more recently, Coach Mosley has said that means more on-ball touches for Bane, like very directly. Like he wants to. The first play last night was a 3-point attempt, like off a elbow flare screen type of deal to run him off to the top of the key, and he missed the 3-pointer. But first play was to get him an open 3-point look, and from there he actually had kind of an off night. That's something I asked him about was after the game. Was he actually missed all 5 or 6 of his threes before the final shot of the game. He was, because of that, it seemed like he was hunting maybe more of the midi pull-up, maybe more of the floater. And he said he was mostly just taking what the defense gave him at that point. And, I bet it felt pretty good to still be able to score and then, hit that walk-off buzzer beater game winner with all this like all-time history behind it in terms of Magic moments with some fun fact stats I can get to. And on that point in transition, also got to ask Paulo about that. He definitely did a little more last night, like leaking out than he normally would. But It felt like, but he just said he kind of sensed it in the moment. Like it felt like he said, if I feel like I can get a jump on the defense and get out, I do it. You don't want to fall in love with that, but that's something that coaches encourage, especially with Paulo and Franz looking for an early seal or a fast break. So, if the offense is a little muddy in the half court, one solution is definitely for any team, but especially a team like the Magic that force so many turnovers historically, the last 2 years at least, they're like top 2 in forcing turnovers, top 2 in defense. It's the points off turnovers. It's actually converting in transition off of those turnovers you create. So that's easy money for Orlando to just kind of pick the low hanging fruit with scoring off turnovers and hitting more of their free throws. They're really not overly efficient, even though they create a ton. That would be something that they could easily score a few more points a game just by knocking down slightly more free throws. That is an advantage they create. And one thing they are taking advantage of is the second chance points with Wendell Carter, Goga Batadze crashing the glass to create offensive rebounds, putbacks. That's a big advantage for them a lot of nights, including like opening night and their matchups against Miami so far.
Yeah, and certainly the caveat, right, is, we are still talking about only the first 11 games of the season. I do wonder if just hypothesizing, sort of, trying to take an attempt to say, look, let's look at a crystal ball of like where can Jamal Mosley take this offense as the season evolves. What are you noticing about when the transition game isn't there, or they try to get out in the break, but defense gets back on in transition, able to come off? What are you seeing like in the Magic spacing right now? What are they trying to go for in theory when it breaks down and they have to start generating something out of the half court? Because the thing that what I see so far in, again, the men's I've seen a lot of Desmond Bane, frankly, just trying to get the paint touch and to mix the results. Like last night, it seemed like he was pretty effective with his paint touches, but the game, like the Sunday night game, he's getting downhill, which it's a good look. I don't know if that should be like his main look. I don't know yet. Like that's just like my honest observation so far. It's like I don't know if that's the look yet. Maybe it becomes that. But what, in theory, what are the Magic trying to go for once it has to become half court offense for them?
Yeah, I think, like I said a little before, it's experimentative so far, where they're trying a lot of different things to see what works, I think. And this is kind of the right time to do that. Like as long as you stay competitive and they actually try their best defensively, which, as you noted, like they just weren't their defensive selves the first few games. Like they finally turned it on. I think it was against Charlotte and Washington after losing to Detroit. They finally like upped their deflections again. They forced a ton of turnovers. They had their defense back and kind of reestablished it. And ever since then, I believe is when they've had a top 10 defense and are 4-2 in that stretch, I believe. But in terms of half court offense, definitely a lot of Bane on ball. That is something they're trying. I think they've been at their best in the flashes of Bane and Paulo 2-man game. That's the stuff that I think is going to be like a real staple long term. And I asked Coach Mosley about it. He kind of like smiled and about how efficient the play was. They had a sequence against the Hawks where they ran it like 6 times in a row for basically 12 points, 2 points per possession, and scoring creating catch and shoot threes for Bane out of it off the pick and pop. And that 2-man game is just creates so many advantages for the team. And you can run the inverted pick and pop with Banchero initiating and Bane popping. You can run the normal pick and roll with Bane and Banchero. Sometimes they slip screens and pop anyway. They can both kind of do both to get through the set. But obviously Banchero more so as the roller. Bane isn't rolling, but Banchero can do a little bit of both. And Banchero has like been utilized arguably as efficiently as ever by the numbers. His true shooting percentage is a career high, or it was at least before last night's game. I would imagine it still is because he had a great night. Even higher really now. but it's a career high because of the way they're using him. All his shots, his shot diet is much more efficient. It's much more at the rim, more free throws, less long twos, less threes, and all around that is making, just because he's taking more shots, that's making his overall production more efficient. So he's scoring more points just by being more efficient without having to do his slow it down, post up, back down, ISO ball quite as often. And, he seems comfortable with either one as long as, he's involved and still scoring. I think he's happy as well. So, and he's still going to pick his spots and take those shots because he's got a little mellow to his game. And that's just what, makes him a fun player is how skilled he can be at times doing, all sorts of stuff. And I think one last thing with him is that this pace, and when he is used as a roller and screener, it's unlocking his playmaking and passing and the short roll and hitting the dunker's spot and hitting the roll man when he's running pick and roll. I can look up the number here in a second, but he's like, it just feels like he's being unlocked more as a short roll playmaking hub, where he's just, as long as he's getting downhill with a head of steam, like he's just really hard to stop. He's drawing a foul, he's getting to the rim, or he's getting a kick out pretty much every time.
Yeah. The short roll, that's certainly, I can see that becoming a good staple for the Magic in the half court. I think it was a possession last night where it was, the one that stuck out in my mind was it was Bane on the break, and he was able to find Wendell coming out, coming from the corner on a nice finish.
Yeah, he's had Paulo had a sick pass where he was attacking a closeout with like a wraparound dump off to Wendell. That was really sick as well. He had Goga in the pick and roll, and Goga was patient, gave him a pump fake under the rim, and drew the foul, and I think got the and one. And Paulo or Coach Mosley was real excited about that one on the sideline. It's you can tell that Coach Mosley stresses the process a lot, and it's something that I think is what keeps the message relatively fresh, is that you can always develop a little bit better, and you can always stick to your process of taking good shots, working for the team, guarding your man, and doing the basic stuff to help your team win. So that's something you can kind of see on the sideline, I guess, just in his reaction. Even when Goga misses a three, he's still he created the three through the right methods, and he can hit it. So, it's a good look for the most part. Maybe not in the clutch situation down two, you're not running it for Goga, but if there's a pick and pop open at some point, might as well try, because he showed in Georgia he can shoot, and he's been a shooter his whole career. He just hasn't fully showed it in the NBA consistently yet, but he's flashed it as a prospect. He's always had it in his game. So we'll see if it finally kind of plays out a little more. Like Wendell this year is up to 45% on three catch and shoot threes a game. He's a true stretch five this year. So they're getting a lot of that's part of the reason they're so efficient in the starting five, is they can play 5 out or 4.5 out, where Wendell's sitting in the dunker spot. And that when they're doing a Bane Banchero pick and roll, they have Wendell there in the dunker spot or in the 3-point line. And to me, I'm imagining the ideal version of that combo. It looks something like Denver with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and an Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot, where you have that 2-man pick and roll, Jamal and Bane, these electric shooter scorers, Jokic and Paulo. Obviously Jokic is MVP, best in the world, but these big five, point center type guys that can play some, Paulo could kind of be that mold, even if he's a little shorter. He could still kind of fill a similar role. So it's interesting for sure. I think I definitely want to see more threes from Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs. Suggs has been on a minutes restriction this whole time. When they actually have them, they're the best lineup in the league. When they don't have them, but Wendell's out there, they're positive. But when it's just the 3 stars without Suggs or Wendell, it's actually been negative net rating so far. So I think the one big thing for the starters is just finding ways to get more threes for their best shooters, Suggs and Bane. Obviously you have the Franz pick and roll DHO as a staple set you can run anytime. and you're getting Franz downhill, Wendell rolling, and Bane and Suggs and Paulo spotting up for 3 or 2 attack closeouts. So, like, that's one staple set. You got Bane and Banchero, every combo of that. That's 2 or 3 staple sets. I mean, a Suggs handoff has always been efficient with Wendell. That's 4 or 5 staple sets. Like, there's some stuff there, I think. You just run those 5 plays every time of some combo. And obviously with more variations and nuance that they know a lot more than I do about. Yeah. You got to say that part. But if they just ran all that, I think that would be an efficient offense, and we would see more threes from Bane, and over time he will return to his career like 41% 3-point shooter on 6 threes a game or 7 threes a game, however many threes he's averaged over his career. Because I don't know if him on ball, it's kind of like, Harden pick and roll high volume versus Steph Curry off ball Warriors running around screens. Like, which way is the best way to create advantages for your team and get the most production and usage out? And there's arguments both ways, but I would love to see more of on like off ball movement for Suggs and Bane, just getting them a lot more threes that way as well. But it's both, because you want them to have that pull-up 3-point shooting gravity as well, to draw 2 on the ball in a pick and roll or a handoff out on the perimeter, and then start the process to beat the double team by hitting Paolo on the short rolled in, and then it's 4 on 3. That's normally a good situation for Orlando.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're contextualizing sort of like with the Magic's offense right now in half court. I mean, it really is an experimental phase right now. And I think that's a good way to look at, what Bane's doing. Again, I mentioned, like, I just first glance kind of hot take reaction. Like, I don't know if, like, I want to see Bane, like, doing the paint touch thing as much as I've seen him do for the Magic. And at the same time, yeah, I think that it would be great for the Magic to figure out a few, like, go-to actions. Maybe it's like Bang. If they just figure out a way, honestly, like, Bang bring up the ball is fine, but I feel like there's an opportunity there where, like, the Magic would be well served to figure out, like, how do they, like, put Bane in like a early get, like, as soon as he's at half court or even before that, just to, like, I like the concept of Bane downhill. I don't like the concept of him downhill with the ball as much, because he's really evolved into a super versatile guard. And I think I realized that more watching that first round Memphis OKC series last playoffs, where out of necessity he had to be the guy that was putting the ball in the deck so much, because, like, the Grizzlies' offense are kind of like decimated to nothing, or just unraveled, frankly. And it just, like, it's almost like with the Magic, they saw that perhaps and like, oh yeah, let's get him, and we're going to keep going down that path. Which, again, I like the versatility of Bane being able to do that. I just don't know if that should be his primary thing, because he is such a prolific shooter, and that's what I'm waiting to see in, Bane in that Magic jersey. When is Bane going to start coming off the screens and just letting it rip?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something I want to see more of too, and it feels like kind of like the old school point guard that can score, where he's feeling out the game and, like, waiting for his moments and picking his spots. And I think more and more we're getting kind of the message of, like, really we need more of a flamethrower than a playmaker here. Like, we just need somebody that's just going to, like, launch threes every time they touch the ball. And we know you can do it. And, like, finally it felt like, this Magic curse of, like, every player not being able to shoot as soon as they get here, like, was happening again to him and Tyus for a few games. But, like, you don't really worry about it because of all the factors with the 3-ball. Like, it's so volatile as it is. He even a shooter like him can have stretches for weeks or maybe even a month or two where it's just not going in and it's 20% from downtown. But, like, literally he will progress to the mean so well that he'll go 60% for another month or something like that, and he'll end up at 41% on 6 threes. And it's important to note he's elite at pull-ups and catch and shoot. So he is like a versatile elite 3-point shooter that is, like, can get it off at different angles, as we saw last night, the most impossible fadeaway 3-point shot. Should I rip off these fun fact stats for you on last night's shot?
Absolutely.
All right. 5 fun facts that you got to know about Desmond Bane's buzzer-beating game winner. It is Desmond Bane's first game-winning buzzer beater of his career. It is Bane's game winner is the 4th buzzer-beating three-pointer in Orlando Magic history, and the 18th time the team has won the game on a buzzer beater. Hedo Turkoglu, Jameer Nelson, Cole Anthony, the other 3 that have hit the buzzer-beating three-pointer, so shout out them. Launching from 27 feet away, Desmond Bane's game-winning buzzer beater is the furthest buzzer beater in Orlando franchise history, surpassing 2 of those names I just mentioned, Jameer's 26-foot shot against Denver in 2011 and Hedo's 25-foot shot against Boston in 2009 via Basketball Reference. It is Orlando's first game-winning buzzer beater since Wendell Carter slammed home a putback dunk as time expired against Detroit on February 23, 2023, so like 2 years ago. I believe I also saw it was Vucevic hit a game winner, his turnaround fadeaway against the Lakers 10 years ago to the day, apparently, yesterday. So it must be a good day to bet on the Magic is November 10th. Remember that going forward. Yeah. And let's see here. The Magic and Heat both won their games on game-winning buzzer beaters, which is the first time in NBA history multiple teams from the same state won via game-winning buzzer beaters, which is just fun to say, as you can tell. And lastly, via Dean Oliver, inventor of basketball's 4 factors, the shot quality on Desmond Bane's game-winning three-point attempt was 7%, or a 5% chance of making the shot. And which, when you look at a picture of that, it makes sense. He is running towards the sideline out of bounds guy to get the inbound with a defender draped all over him, who's taller than him, with an arm up in his face, and he pulls up, fade away, no problem, splash 3, like literally the craziest shot in maybe in Magic history, and it was just like on a Monday night against the Portland Trailblazers. Like who would have thought it would have came that way? But it that's basketball for you. You just never know when you're gonna get like a special moment like that. And I don't like. There's been bigger moments for sure for Orlando. Obviously, bigger shots. DJ Augustine, shout out, Game 1, Raptors. Hedo against the Sixers, Richard against the Cavs, and plenty of more going back. But just in terms of like degree of difficulty to win the game at the buzzer, fadeaway 27-foot 3. I mean, I don't know if you can dream up a tougher scenario, tougher shot. And you would think all of that kind of momentum and all of you could see how happy Paolo and the team looked after that moment. That's the kind of moment this team like really needed to just kind of start gelling like they know they can have some confidence going forward that they have this like flamethrower on the team. They just got to figure out how to use them and let them loose.
Yeah, I think with that magnificent summary of it, I would be remiss if I didn't at least bring up the highlight just to recap that energy from last night.
Oh, I'm here for that. It never gets old.
Yeah, so
it's only a day old, so it wouldn't get old that fast. But
yeah, that's insane.
It's never gonna get old. It's what I meant, I guess. But man, what a shot! Just insanity. The crowd goes crazy. It all happened really fast, and the whole sequence was insane. The Magic were basically begging to give it away, like we said. Like they were up 5 with like 45 seconds left or a minute left, and both teams missing free throws. Paulo redeems himself with the steal at the end with 2 seconds left on ball, just swiping it away from Drew Holiday, who's notorious for doing that himself. And they get one last look. Apparently, Bane was the decoy. It was for Paulo at 3 and it wasn't open, and they threw it to Bane anyway, and he launched it, and ball game. I mean, it feels like one of those season changing, or at the very least, like just momentous moments that, as Bane actually said, you need the moments like these, and also you need the downs together too to kind of go through the hardships and the ups and downs of the NBA together and build that camaraderie so you can trust each other when it matters most.
Absolutely. And, that's a good segue because, yeah, like that shot could very well just be the catalyst for a lot of momentum that the Magic carried forward. Looking back on these first 11 seasons, I mean, we talked about how really these last immediate 3 games, the Friday game, the Sunday game, and then, the Monday game, up and down, right? Win, loss, win. But even, going back to the very first game and looking at how this season has evolved so far, the Magic start off with a win against the Miami Heat, 125-121, going on a 4-game losing streak from that, to then finally get their second win against the Charlotte Hornets. This is what you mentioned earlier that I think this is good to pair with this as well. You talked about how Coach Jamal Mosley, I mean, he sticks to his process. From your observation of the team and being around them, what would you surmise is the process that they've taken to sort of persevere through that sort of early adversity of nobody ever wants a 4-game losing streak regardless of what time of the year it is, and that's a pretty heavy one to be confronted with, especially with the expectations that this team was attached with preseason or off season by going to go get a Desmond Bane. What would you say is the process that they've taken through these ups and downs?
Yeah, I mean they have trusted the kind of same process that Mosley preaches, and I think some nights they just haven't necessarily shown up and done it and executed it. Like he's just blamed kind of the defense one night, turnovers one night, him not preparing them another night, where it just feels like it hasn't all come together quite yet. But I think that was a little early on in the season. I do think as we've progressed through it, and especially since the last 5 or 6 games, that they've turned things around a little bit and have kind of returned to the process that works for them, which is the defense first and foremost, continuing to dominate the glass, continuing to force fouls or draw fouls and create volume at the free throw line. And that's been a big difference, is just continuing to attack the paint in that way. And, on the point of, I was thinking too on kind of Bane and Suggs, I think that the team still doesn't quite naturally have a clear point guard, and that has led the half-court offense to kind of just go through a lot of different variations where we'll see Suggs initiating at point guard, where honestly he might end up being one of the better options because you end up letting him create an advantage and you have all these other guys surrounding him. But I think ultimately Suggs and then Anthony Black and Tristan da Silva are more of the connector types that you bring in for the catch and shoot threes, the defense, and the playmaker, connector, team first, pass first type of ball movement role players at the moment. And Suggs is obviously like the all defensive version of that. And Anthony Black is an elite defender too, and Da Silva is forcing a lot of steals this year too. He's proven his own. I think that's like the reliable role player part of the rotation at the moment that they do have figured out. But the real problem is they just haven't landed on a bench lineup that they can kind of roll with and trust the way they're used to. They've had Cole Anthony running the bench unit for multiple years now at point guard, a reliable offensive creator who's now starting for the Bucks and doing really well. Like some clear talent there that they were able to rely on as a 6-man. They haven't had Mo Wagner yet this entire season. Was the league leader bench scoring big man last year until he got hurt. He's been out all year, and I think it's still a couple months away, but maybe just a month or two. But when he does return, that's a huge part of their bench offense, where that they're just missing at the moment. So they're trying to find do they stagger 2 stars on the court at all times between their big 3? Do they try to leave one of them in at all times? Is it even worth trying lineups without any of them in? I don't really think so at this point. They have a clear, when you have 3 stars, that's one of the perks, especially when they're healthy and available. And I think they're all roughly all-star level players and have proven that in some capacity, whether they have the award or not. And, so trying to find the balance of what sets work, what sets create good offense consistently. And as many variations of that as possible. I think they are leaning more into the Bane on-ball role, especially at the moment, to create his touches, and we'll see what it does. He's had really good chemistry with Wendell in the pick and roll as well as Paolo. So like dishing off to Paolo or Wendell as a roller, like you'll see nice hook passes, swing passes, like just good playmaking creator tendencies from Bane there. He's getting to his midi pull-up and floater, especially when the 3-point's not falling. I think it's him being a patient decision maker, and that's good for the team. And I think fans just want no patience and no decision making. They just want to touch it and shoot it as soon as he gets it. And maybe that's just not quite his game, but I think maybe it could be his game. Like I think the more that he realizes that's what this team needs, I think he will then go out of his way to shoot first and then drive second instead of drive first and kind of read the defense and go from there. And I think that, is also just him kind of adjusting to this new offense. Like this team is 10 games in together, playing together with Suggs in and out of the lineup. And, they're just kind of forming a rotation. But I think fully healthy, you've got, the best starting lineup in the NBA by net rating and all those stats. So you've at least got two-way floor balance there that you can trust. You've got Anthony Black and Tristan Silva really as spot starter capable 6th and 7th men. Goga Batadze has been that in the past. He's kind of had a down year in that sense, but he's still had moments where he'll protect the rim and make big plays as a play finisher, rebounder. But you kind of have your top 7 when healthy, and just trying to carve out a few bench lineups to get through the second and third quarter without kind of losing the entire lead. Kind of like, the Nuggets problem when Jokic goes off the floor. It's like, how do we create an entirely new system without our supernova creator on the court? Well, you have 3, even 4 with Suggs, if you want to count him as a creator. For creators, you can kind of have 2 on the court at all times. So I think that is kind of the answer, is just to always have at least 1, if not 2, of those 4 guys, especially the top 3. But I think Suggs is getting there. Like we saw Suggs, like not last year, but the year before, he was shooting like 40% on 7 or 8 threes a game. Like there's a chance he can, if he's your second best shooter and doing that, and you've got Suggs and Bane at 7 threes a game, 40%. I mean, it's one of the best offenses in the league with the big wings drawing fouls and getting their own scoring and creating going. So I think that's ultimately where you want to end up, ideally, is just trying to figure out how to create those shots and keep everybody healthy to do it and keep everybody happy. But the team seems to be full of egoless guys that are team first and not really, like you never really hear anyone complain about touches or getting theirs. It's all about the team. So I think it's a matter of time. Like Suggs coming back from his minutes restriction, Mo Wagner coming back from injury, will do a lot to round out the rotation a little bit. And, we'll see how they can create these threes. I think that's ultimately the big question is how to get more threes from Bane and Suggs while creating good looks for the whole team consistently. Because they're not trying to just create more threes for Bane and Suggs. They're just trying to create team offense that creates good looks for everyone constantly. They're not as worried about one individual as all the fans that are like, why is the math not mathing right now?
Yeah. Well, to that point, that evokes another sort of crystal ball question for me about this Magic roster. I mean, and I'll caveat, obviously we are just about a month into the regular season, a lot of basketball to be played. But if we look into the crystal ball, that magical informal date of December 15th, once we start hitting that trade deadline season emerging, is that a space where potentially the Magic might find some answers to the depth issue that you brought up? Or I shouldn't say depth issue, but more like figuring out the bench rotation, especially because, I mean, that's becoming like what this climate, this new NBA, so to speak, is all about, right? teams keep talking about how they want to have their depth, and the last the finals between the Thunder and Pacers really became like the poster child for what does it actually mean to have high functioning depth. So is that potentially something that the Magic may start to lean more into? Is there's at least one or two more guys that we should be looking at to bring in for depth pieces by February?
Yeah, I don't think I think it's always on the table. I think the way Jeff Weltman, their president of basketball operations, talks about it is that if they see a move that will improve their team, like they're always open to that type of a move, and they're always looking for that sort of thing. But they definitely value continuity, and definitely, I think would prefer to keep their own guys in house. I mean, they drafted Jonathan Isaac with their first draft pick, and he's through his ups and downs and injuries, he's still on the team. That is kind of to segue to the trade ideas. That is probably one name to keep an eye on, just because they drafted Noah Penda as well, and they both kind of play similar roles off the bench, similar positions. So you could foresee handing off the torch to Noah Penda there as your defensive ace off the wing or off the bench energy guy. But if they were going to put together a deal, I think, Tyus Jones has kind of been a little up and down so far. I think he's been affected a lot by the confusion of all the roles. Like if we had a little bit more clear of a lineup and role for him, I think he'd be a little more effective. But he's a point guard that runs pick and rolls, that can connect and hit the open three. He's not a starter defensively, so spot starting him is kind of tough to throw him out there and ask him to go guard Trae Young, where he's going to get picked on all night. So that's one issue there. But I think he looks good when he plays with Paulo. Like he does bring that Corey Joseph effect that we saw last year for Orlando, where like he was just feeding the big man, finding him very easily. Always like natural point guard things you just want your point guard to do, but not everybody does it. And sometimes it takes the sixth point guard on the bench coming in for injuries or one reason or another to steady the ship a little bit. Jett Howard is, before the season, I would have said might have been a little more expendable, and maybe given how the roster is shaking out, maybe he's one other name to look at. And because they drafted Jace Richardson, another guard who can light it up and fill a similar role. But Jett's been really good this year. I mean, anytime he gets a look, he's hitting his threes. He's making very team first decisions. Just last night, passed up a semi-open layup to hit the open Anthony Black for three, who suddenly Anthony Black hit a step back three. So it was quite of like, what did I just see sequence in that one? Because that's not very often for those two. But it's just a good sequence for him. But like, one deal that's been sitting on my mind, if you're going to juice up this offense, is like pulling Sacramento Kings seem to be rebuilding a little bit. Maybe pull Malik Monk out of there. He's always been a name I've loved for Orlando for years, even going back to like the Oladipo days. But if you throw Malik, if you put a package together like a Jett or Isaac Tyus combo for Malik in there, and maybe they want a prospect in Jett or a defensive ace in Isaac, and maybe that's appeals to them. Who knows? That's just a one package or idea that comes to mind. Like if they were going to target someone, it would probably be that 6-man type of he's kind of a 6-man that would flow right into what they're already doing with handoffs and threes off of Paulo and Franz. I don't know if there is that, I don't know if there's that natural point guard out there that they're going to go find. Like Tyus Jones would be that guy. Like you just got him. Like you're not going to find a better backup point guard in the league than Tyus Jones. So, maybe that's not the answer if it's not working, and maybe you want a different role, or maybe he hasn't really been given a fair shake for his role and maybe needs a little more steady role himself to be able to thrive. So I think finding a steady, maybe he's effective with Mo Wagner in the pick and roll once he comes around down the line for the bench unit, and you fill out the lineup with Franz and Da Silva and a stud defender to help cover up Tyus a little bit in the backcourt, like AB or Suggs or something. So And you had brought up KCP before. I do think, to KCP's credit, he's probably I think he is still like a more active, energetic defender than Bane at this point. Like you are getting a little bit more on-ball pressure there from KCP, and they really relied on that last year with Suggs out to injury. They had a top 2 defense still. Big part of that was KCP, no doubt. But I think it was more like, I think, Bane is making up for it with diving for loose balls, hustling, being in the right spots. Like he's not really getting beat or anything. He's still a plus defender out there. So you're not really losing much on the team defense side. And I think it was more as a whole collective. They just weren't bringing it. They just were not bringing the effort needed to, bring enough defensive effort to win the ball game early on. And maybe that's just a little bit of early season woes or whatever. I think with a little more time, these guys will continue to gel and figure those things out.
Yeah, and there certainly is a tangible aspect to developing a defense, because a lot of defense is communication. It's like having that relationship with your teammates to know where you can expect them, or like how they can like function best, helping, those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, at this stage, you would hope that there's still an evolution or like a refinement that happens in the defense. Names that just popped, like since you mentioned the Sacramento Kings, I would be curious, like hypothetically, if you're Jeff Weltman, would you look at potentially if you're able to get like a Devin Carter on the cheap, given that there's it sounds like Sacramento's going to be open for business by February in terms of just frankly rebuilding that whole roster. Like that could be an intriguing guard option just to bring in that depth. Given, I mean, he's still relatively young. He was in the 24 class, so he should have at least like 2 more years on his contract. So could be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good name. I mean, a defensive guard, that kind of a Magic type of player for sure when you think about it that way. I mean, a plus defender that they can't have enough of in the backcourt. Pulling up his stats real quick, he seems to shoot a high volume of threes just relative to his shot selection. It's where was it? The 3-point rate, a 3.0 defensive BPM this season, and 48% 3-point rate and a 55% 3-point rate this season. So over half his shots are threes. So that is the kind of D&3 guard prospect to fit with the timeline. Maybe throw in the mix. I guess it just depends what they're looking for in that guard spot. Like if you got the starting 5 and you got AB and Da Silva pretty set as your top 7, you got rookies Jason Noah Penda lurking, you've got Jett Howard still, you got Goga Bitadze and Mo Wagner there. Which pieces do you think, like after that top 7, like really fit and give you depth, where I think a part of it is also matchup based with Mosley. Like his rotations are generally matchup based and changing by the game and who's available and kind of who he's feeling in the moment. I think I like Bane has even mentioned it's very different than playing with under Taylor Jenkins, who had much more strict rotations of who's coming in at what time and certain time slots and how many minutes they're going to get and what their role is. That's not exactly where it's at here, but I think they're defining that. And that's what this opening stuff is that we keep hitting on, is like they do know their top 7. They know Da Silva's thriving in this role, shooting lights out from 3 and forcing turnovers and being a connector. They know AB, he's a little up and down, a little bit streaky this year, but I think it also has something to do with his role as well. When they use him as the point guard, run and pick and roll, it hasn't quite been as effective as him being a connector, shooting, spotting up for 3, attacking closeouts, swinging the ball around and being an active defender. And sometimes he'll draw a foul or kind of make a questionable choice. But when he's like doing that, anytime you make mistakes, making hustle plays, like it's not really a mistake. Like that's like, you'll clean it up next time around. You're making the right type of play by going for the deflection.
Yeah, and I'm curious from what I noticed when Jamal Mosley's brought up, and at least from us seeing some of the responses you've had, it seems like there probably is a uh, I guess the best way to frame it, it certainly is like at least a minor tug of war within the Magic fan base about Jamal Mosley's coaching. But honestly, a lot of NBA franchises, a lot of NBA fan bases, the head coach is almost always going to get some flack for something. It just kind of comes with the territory. But I'm curious, like from the standpoint of how the Magic have played, how they've competed. Again, the ebbs and flows of this early season right now. What are your thoughts on Jamal Mosley's coaching? Is there anything where either from like the conversations you do have with him, his thoughts about this season, things he wants to do differently? Yeah, I know there was also the one presser where he just talked about the turnovers, like you on the mantra. That was interesting, to be honest. That made me laugh. But just like what the current like interim grade on Jamal Mosley as a coach right now. Where are you with him on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love Coach Mosley. The standard he set for this team, like he's like changed this whole team around. Like I think like the buck stops with him. Like he set like so much of a culture for this team that was so needed at that time that like you can go year by year and see the improvements they've made across the board. And offense not so much has not fully gotten there yet, but I think this is kind of the year. There's definitely, I think fans are going to be fans. I think the coach is the easy scapegoat. He's the first guy anyone, anytime there's a problem, like just fire the coach and find a new one is pretty much the answer to most fans' idea for that. But, the grass isn't always greener for that sense. I think most teams would love to have Jamal Mosley as their head coach. He's also the Team USA select head coach. So he's heavily involved in Team USA, respected there. Where I think he's probably considered one of the top nominees for future head coach of Team USA. I'm sure he's on the short list, but obviously it's now Coach Spo up for that one. So I'm sure he'll be holding that down for a while. But I think he gets raved about by other coaches and raved about by players for his energy. I don't think he's lost the locker room or anything like that. Like there's been some rumors floating around. I don't really see much of that, to be honest. I think the team like the first 10 games is more like you said right off the top is the expectations. This was a fun team that had no expectations 2 years ago, and that I was kind of telling Magic fans then, like, enjoy this part while it lasts, because like this is just basketball and fun, and no one knows what to expect. So like everything is good and positive and new. I've been calling it. It's the best season, the best Magic season, most exciting Magic season since like Dwight Howard left. Like every year of the past 3 or 4 or 5 years, just because of the way Mosley builds a system, the new rookies that became stars, that the depth that has gotten better. Like this team has clearly, gotten better across the board. Where it feels like it's the most talented depth the team has ever had, or not ever, but in this existence of the team the last few years. And the way they're using Paulo is as efficient as ever. Franz is as consistent as ever. Like Wendell's hitting his threes. If Suggs plays a little more, then they know what they're getting out of him. But in terms of Coach Mosley, I think the rotations could probably be a little more simple and straightforward. But at the same time, he's the one coach in the game feeling out different things. Like if he thinks there's an advantage on the board in this position to get Goga Bitadze in real quick, he's going to throw him in to fight for a free throw, maybe at the end of the game or something like that, or whatever it may be. But I think that he said before that like closing lineups are by committee, he loves to say, where he just kind of rides the hot hand, or he tries what he thinks will work in any given moment based on a whole bunch of factors. Like it's not like he's just making random decisions. He's using the information he's got to build the best rotation he can. So I think, they've kind of carved out the 6th and 7th man role, that they will continue to do that with like just a handful of lineups that start to work as bench units, and then they'll kind of even out that rotation going forward. He preaches the defense first, and that's been the culture for this team. So if this can be a top 5 defense and continue to create efficient shots consistently, then I think eventually more of them will go in, because you're getting good looks and you've got just a ton of talent and a ton of shooting talent really across the board taking it.
Absolutely. And I have a pretty pronounced defensive bias when it comes to NBA basketball. So I'm an outsider on looking in, but I tend to believe that the Magic right now is early in the season. There's some filling out that has to happen with the roster. There's some guys that you need to get back on the court. Obviously, it's a long season, and the important thing is like all those variables just need to come into place by the time it's April and going into May. And just need things to bounce the right way, get guys healthy, and I think the Magic can be an interesting team in the East this season. And actually, before we get out here, I would love to get your perspective, because of course you host the Learning Basketball podcast, which I will plug. Go listen to his podcast because it's great. It's inspired me to do this, frankly, that we're doing right now. And he's like Ryan always has great guests on Learning Basketball.
Hey, right back at you, man. You've been killing it right here on Narratives, man. I appreciate it, man. We'll have to make a little crossover episode happen here soon. But I appreciate the love, and were you asking me about something about the East?
Yeah, I want to get your perspective on like just what do you think of the East right now? And this is like honestly, it's like half a thinking out loud question, because I've not really felt confident in anything that I see in the Eastern Conference yet. It just seems like the most volatile the East has ever been. And maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but at the same time, it's just like to see how these games have played out at this early stage of the season. And I should say, for the uninitiated, I am a Bulls fan as well, and I did not expect the Chicago Bulls to get out to a 6-1 start. Like, we're just seeing things that they're interesting team to team, but I kind of like am looking at this in almost like a macro environmental kind of construct right now, where like is there just something going on in the East right now where like people have talked about the parity thing in the NBA. I think this is really the fully formed state of parity arriving, where it feels like I'm watching NFL football every night, where it's just like anything can happen.
Right. No, that stole the words out of my mouth. Like, I think this is like parity in full effect in terms of just any given Sunday with the level of talent in the NBA and the volatility of the 3-ball on any given night, and had the volume of threes that these teams take, that anyone is really, really in it. In terms of the East itself, it also a little bit of early season sample size. I feel like things are a little like it's like warm up lap until we get to Christmas, and once Christmas arrives, we know a little bit more of like who's for real, who everybody is, and kind of how the season is projected to shake out normally by then. But not always. I suppose we had the Pacers last year kind of not have it all together for a while until a game in December, and then like this from the start of the new year, they were as good as any team in the East the rest of the way. And sometimes it takes a little bit to put it together. But right now the East, we got Pistons 9-2, top of the East. I think they're for real. They just had a crazy shootout with Cade shooting whatever it was, making history with like a 40-point. I don't want to misquote it, but like some crazy stats in the box score but also missing a ton of shots, but also leading the team to the end of the win in the clutch. So funny game there where he's putting the team on his back. But I think him and Durant are a killer pick and roll combo. That's a lethal combo. Asar Thompson, lethal defender. Like I think the Pistons are legit, and they're going to be a top 5 playoff seed for sure with the rest of this group. And the Heat, I think, are the storyline of the East so far. Like the way they're playing, like they're one of the best offenses in the league. They're 7-4. They've got, well, they're actually great on both ends, but they're better on defense too. But they're 5th on defense and 10th on offense. But they're doing it without running any pick and rolls.
I've heard a lot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of, to sum it up quickly, the Memphis Grizzlies were similarly running this type of offense last year. There's an assistant coach, Noah LaRoche, who is credited with just this driving relocation concept of creating the advantages without the use of the pick and roll and the handoffs. And that's what the Grizzlies ran for a while last year. And now it's totally inverted. There was, I think, the All NBA podcast did a chart that showed like the Grizzlies are running like 30 or 40 more pick and rolls this year than they were last year. And the Heat are the opposite. They're running like 30 or 40 more less pick and rolls than last year. They're just not running any pick and rolls. I think they ran like 2 or 3 or 4 the other night and put up over 100 points. And they are, reportedly, Coach Spo is talking to Coach LaRoche as a consultant of sorts to kind of talk about the offense. And I think that is definitely being credited as a factor in kind of the style of play that the Heat are using. But they're lighting it up. They did a lot of it without Tyler Hero too. And they're one of the best teams in the East. And I don't think people projected them to necessarily be doing it this way, but it's super interesting to kind of see if other teams will copy them, and kind of just the general idea I've been mulling around of just like is that the best way to create advantages? Like just going ISO and drive and kick all the time. And it just feels like we're in the playground, just running your turn, my turn, drive and kick nonstop. And that's where basketball is heading back to. But if everyone can dribble, pass, and shoot, then it's reliable offense to just keep doing it until you find the advantage or the shot that you want. And it's working well for the Heat. So I think, those two teams stand out to me in terms of the success of the East so far. And also shout out to Maxey on the Sixers, man. He's just lighting it up. He is MVP candidate level, lighting it up. Like he has been electric shooting numbers, stupid shooting numbers. Like 8. Let me find them while we're talking. But
just insane. So yeah, I mean, while you're looking that up, I mean, I watched Maxey when the Sixers were playing the Bulls, and I actually I lived in Philadelphia for a few years, so like I have Sixers friends, and like I always kind of keep up the team tangentially. And I think like what I've seen from Maxey so far this season this is the best Maxey ever. Just like that's not even a stretch to say. Definitely MVP candidate. His ability to get the shot whenever he wants is crazy. It just seemed like when the Bulls were able to pull off that come from behind win, Maxey just looked gassed from just like carrying the whole team on his back that night. So I'm intrigued by the Sixers because I mean it's only a matter of time before VJ Edgecombe. I mean he's a rookie, right? So like you can't expect too much of him right now. But it also doesn't seem like he has that much of a. He doesn't have like that much of a learning curve, honestly. Like by the middle of the season, that is going to be a heck of a backcourt.
It's lethal already. I was excited for their future, but I mean, VJ has been incredible out of the gate. Just a lethal slasher, looking like D Wade on a fast break highlight the other day, like where he had this left to right crossover slash. Like, whew, man, he's flying, he's explosive, and he's more. I thought he was more of like a D&3 potentially type of guy, and he's already playing defense, already lighting it up from 3, hitting threes, and attacking closeouts, and just a crazy athlete. That's the one thing that we knew was coming, was crazy athlete. He's down for some monster poster slams and big blocks, big turnover guy. And we got also with Maxey 33 points a game, 49% on 14 twos, but 44% on 9 threes a game, and 87% on 8 free throws a game for 62% true shooting on quite a high volume of shots. So, he's lighting it up. So, if they actually can kind of give him a breather, like you're saying, and bring in some of their stars and let him kind of not have to carry the load every single night. I mean, he might not average as many points, but it could probably help his energy levels and help the team if they can balance out the offense a little bit.
Yeah, I would also shout out Kelly Oubre as well. He seems to really like land it into a good role for himself in that Sixers organization, where like I was when he first got the first season he got there. I think I had a running bit. I was just because it's like the NBA. Sometimes guys just have that one season where it's like all of a sudden out of nowhere they just light it up for that one season, and then they kind of like go off into the nether regions or whatever. But it stuck with him. It seems like he really has a good feel for the other guys on the floor, and he's becoming a really good glue guy, I think, for the Sixers.
Yeah, that's a good shot. He's been a legit role player they could rely on. That you kind of thought might just be another flyer on an athletic wing, like Daryl Morey tends to just continue to bring in guys like that. But D&3 prospects, but you're going to hit on one eventually, and he's a guy that has found a nice niche.
Absolutely, man. Well, man, we could talk for hours, of course, about basketball, given the way
never
we
gets
love
old,
it.
man.
Never gets old. And so glad to have you back on the pod. Yeah, love to do a Flintstones Jetsons learning basketball. What can yeah, definitely
it can happen.
Yeah, plug away at this point because I know you always got great guests, but your writing also for SI has been great, man, this season.
I appreciate the shout, man. Yeah, I'm covering the Magic on SI this season, so check out Magic on SI for our team covering Orlando on the ground. A couple of us for SI, so you got quotes and reporting and analysis right from the games. So check that out. I do a Substack newsletter and a YouTube channel with my Twitter account, all at Beyond the RK. And write for Swish Theory as well. Some scouting reports, grassroots scouting, data viz, analytics, all that fun stuff on all those things. Just covering the NBA at large, focusing on the Orlando Magic, with an NBA draft perspective too for scouting, trying to get out to local big events around Florida like Mount Verde events and IMG Academy and Top 100 Camp and stuff like that. And Oak Ridge, that's always a fun one. But just trying to do a little bit of everything, but a lot of Magic this year. So check out, appreciate the shout. Check out the Learning Basketball podcast and up in the Magic podcast episode. So if you want some, weekly, bi-weekly coverage of the team, where I always got a guest there or on playback where we're watching games sometimes, breaking down the film or at the game as it's happening, doing it live. So, always writing, editing film, watching film, data viz, all that fun stuff. Anything Magic related, I got you.
Yeah, you stay on the grind. You're never afraid to grind, Ryan.
Hey, right back at you, man. Right back at you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
The pod, man. I appreciate you having me on, and you're killing it too. You got some great guests, great episodes, great thoughts being shared.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to do. Narratives per possession. We want to connect everyone to better basketball narratives. So please, hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and then also check out our Narratives per possession Patreon community as well, where we have some of the video content like this. Also, great written content. I just pushed out a new blog on the Patreon this yesterday or no, what is it? Today is Tuesday. I pushed out one. It was either Monday or Sunday. It's the blur. Yeah, the grind gives me amnesia.
Who knows? Every day is the same,
Exactly.
On the NBA schedule.
Yeah, but I did push out a blog. It's an interesting blog, and you should read it, Ryan. It is about the Doug Moe system, which is an interesting plus-minus style metric. I won't give away too much, but read it because I think it's a good way of rationalizing this early season of basketball we're seeing in the NBA, especially in the Eastern Conference. But check out all that good stuff. And once again, Ryan, thanks, man, for coming back on the pod. Love always having you on as a guest. And, love being able to talk hoops with you, man. So I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Always fun talking hoops with you as well, Morris. Hit me up anytime. We'll keep making it happen.
All right, man. Appreciate it.